Jesus sends them out, those 12 disciples. There's another account where he sends out 72, reminding us that Jesus didn't just have the 12 immediately around him, but he had a much wider body of disciples as well. But he sends them out with no bread and no bag and no money and not even a spare coat, which is either a beautiful picture of radical trust or it's the worst packing list in human history. I don't know about you, but whenever Claire and I go out in our caravan for a weekend break, it takes 3 lists to make sure that we've got all the food, all the bedding, all the clothes and all the toiletries that we need, to say nothing, of course, of the tools and the chemicals and the spanners that are required just to make the caravan function. You know what I mean? Yes, yes. Mary and John are nodding over there. Yeah. I keep a permanent checklist on my phone. Yeah? So that every time we have to pack up to go away, I can tick off one by one. Yes, remembered the toothpaste. Yes, got the chemical. Yeah. So if I was organising the training exercise that Jesus is sending his disciples on, there would be a spreadsheet. There would be columns. There would be a risk assessment. There would be a contingency plan and a backup plan, and a plan in case the backup plan failed. That's how I like to plan things. Jesus, on the other hand, says just go, and go light. Go lightly. Travel as if God might actually show up and walk alongside with you. And that, I think, is the first thing that makes us nervous about this radical call of Jesus's. Reliance on God sounds lovely, doesn't it? Until it means giving up the comforting illusion that we are in control. Until it means admitting that our clever strategies, our persuasive arguments, even our lovely mission development plan printed on nice thick paper with reassuring headlines in a nice bold font, might not be the thing that finally does the work. Now, don't misunderstand me. Planning matters. Thinking matters. Being intentional about what we do matters. But Mark 6 is very clear about what doesn't get to be the engine in the motor car of mission. Not our charisma, not our technique, not planning an extra cloak, just in case. The disciples are sent out under-prepared on purpose. Jesus makes them do it. They have no choice but to lean on who? God. Which is awkward, because most of us would rather lean literally on anything else. A leaflet, a slogan, a campaign strategy, a vicar, possibly even a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. And then there's the second bit of this story, the bit that we don't put on the mission posters. Oh, I suddenly came alive then. Must have been masking my mic. I do apologise. There we are. I shall drown you all. All right. The bit that we don't put on the mission posters. If any place will not welcome you and they refuse to hear you, as you leave, shake the dust that is on your feet as a testimony against them. It's tough stuff, isn't it? In other words, sometimes you have to stop trying to haul people into the kingdom. Yes, sometimes you stop. That's not the bit that we like, especially if we've spent years being told that faithfulness equals persistence at all costs. Try harder, we're told. Explain it better. Pray more intensely. If they're not listening, perhaps you just haven't found the right words yet. And that lands really close to home for some of us. Parents and grandparents who have baptized their children with hope in their eyes and a candle in their hand, and are now watching those same children roll their eyes at the very word church. Oh, it's lovely that you enjoy church, Grandma, but it's not for me. You know what I mean, don't you? Often we are the people who have prayed and nudged and hinted and invited and bribed until we get to the point of exasperation. I just don't understand it. What am I doing wrong? Why won't my beloved child come to church? Why won't my friends listen and come and join me? They're happy enough to drink coffee with me, but they don't want to come and worship God with me. Why? What am I doing wrong? Jesus' instruction here is not cruel. It's not dismissive. It's merciful. This idea of shaking the dust off your feet. It says, your job is to witness, not to coerce. It's to offer, but not to persuade. It's to speak, but not to chase people down the street waving some clever theological argument and shouting, oh, just one more thing. Just listen to this because this will persuade you. No, that's not what's required. There is a point at which continuing to push stops being faithfulness and starts being anxiety. It stops being love and starts to look a bit like stalking. A point at which our persistence is no longer about love, but about our need to feel that we have done all that's humanly possible to drag our loved ones to Jesus. And this is where the theme of the first part of the reading, leaning on God, balances with the second part of the reading, worrying about others and whether or not they're in the kingdom. If it all depends on us, then of course we never stop. Of course, we carry the weight. We keep on worrying, praying desperately for others to turn to Christ. We lie awake rehearsing clever, persuasive words that we wish we'd used when they last spoke to us on the subject. If salvation is basically down to us and down to our performance, then every refusal can begin to feel like a personal failure, can't it? What have I done wrong? But if it depends on God, then space opens up, real space for God to be God. Jesus says elsewhere, and this is the line worth hanging on to, and I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself, says Jesus. That's John chapter 12, if you want to look it up and study it later. Notice what Jesus doesn't say. He doesn't say, I will be assisted by your excellent communication skills. No, he doesn't say, I will draw those people that you have successfully argued into submission. No, he says, I will draw all people to myself, which is either deeply comforting or deeply annoying, depending on how much you feel that you enjoy being useful to God. The disciples go out without any resources because they are not the point. And they are allowed to walk away, to shake the dust off their feet, because God does not need them to force the outcome. Their task is obedience, not success. Faithfulness and not control. And that might be the word that some of us need to hear today, especially in a season of planning and vision and discernment, especially when we care deeply about the future of the church, especially when we care about those who we love who are not here in church with us, especially when we're worrying about whether any of this will work in human terms. What if reliance on God is not a last resort, but the whole point? What if shaking the dust from our feet is not giving up, but it's trusting that God's reach is longer than ours and God's patience is far greater than ours. Which ultimately brings us rather beautifully to that canticle from Chronicles that Bruce read just now. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness, the power, the victory, was the translation we had this morning, and the majesty. You are exalted as head over all. God's is the greatness, not ours, not the PCC's, not even the rectors, which will come as a relief to some. So, go lightly, love honestly, speak when invited, be silent when it's time, and trust, really trust, that God is doing far more than we see, often in places we can't reach, with people we love dearly, even when we're not in the room. And that, oddly enough, is not a counsel of despair. It's a kind of freedom. Amen.